This is the home of the Al-Kadriyas family in Zuma town of Buari Area Council, where the father and 6 of his children were abducted by bandits on the 2nd of January. Although Mr. Mansour was subsequently released, it was for the purpose of going to generate a ransom of 60 million naira. Sadly, while still trying to put together the ransom, on the 13th of January, the family received a call to come identify one of 4 corpses dumped on the outskirts of the FCT. Sadly, this turned out to be his second daughter, Nabiha, a 400-level biological science student at the Ahmadu Bello University Zaria. News of Nabiha's death has sparked several reactions, including a crowdfunding to raise the questioned 60 million naira ransom for the release of her other sisters. While Nabiha has been buried, the situation has become complicated as the bandits are now exploiting the sympathy of Nigerians to request a higher ransom of 100 million naira. Although the family members confirm that they have received financial assistance from Nigerians, they say they have not heard from the bandits in the last 24 hours. The family is also pleading with the bandits to accept what has been generated and show mercy. Investigations also reveal that Nabiha and her family were adopted by the same gang of bandits who struck Sagwari Layout Estates, also in Buari Area Council, but more than 10 kilometers apart, on the 7th of January. These bandits also killed 3 victims from the 10 abducted in Sagwari and dumped their bodies alongside Nabiha's in a community on the outskirts of the FCT. Meanwhile, the head of the vigilante group in the Zuma town, where the family resides, say the once peaceful community has been overtaken by fear.
The mood of the community is that of fear, because what happened is what one never expected. As long as I can remember, we've not had any issue or security challenge here.
The community is also asking for the intervention of the federal government so as to develop the ungoverned large swaths of land and ensure it is not a hideout for thieves.
There are some farms that have been abandoned. You can't go there to harvest. Those who have yams to harvest have decided not to because of the fear. You may be in a farm and then the next thing you will hear somebody greeting you with a strange language. And before you know, you are taken away. So we are in fear actually. These mountains you see that we once enjoyed have become so terrible for us now. We cannot do anything.
Cow grazing yard is not possible to be in the FCT entirely because it's causing us a problem, big problem. This is the hideout of all these bandits. Since the greater press in Cow, we are facing problem.
Buari Area Council borders Kaduna and Niger State and has seen an increase in the spate of bandit attacks since December last year. The council chairman is calling for synergy between the governors of the 2 states and the FCT minister to end the violence.
The attack we are talking about between Niger, Kaduna, FCT and Nasarawa. The governors must come together with the FCT minister to sit up. If not, these people, all they are trying to do, if you look at what they are doing, their strategy, where they are aiming is Federal Capital Territory, which is the eye of Nigeria. And if we should allow these people, they will disgrace us. They will come into Federal Capital Territory itself as they are coming gradually. There are villages around Kaduna side, even in my area. Many people don't longer sleep in their village because they are terrorizing them.
This signboard perforated by bullets tells us about the exchange of gunfire which did take place on that night when Nabiha, her father and 5 of her sisters were adopted by the bandits. Well, sadly, there will be no tales of any heroism on her part after she was killed by the bandits. But the prayers of the family is that the family members who are in captivity are released sometime soon. Ferdinand Duruoha, reporting from Buari Area Council.
And it's not too much to ask that their family members be brought home safe and sound. Ferdinand is here with us in the studio. Ferdinand, I mean, it's really troubling. It's not too much that we dedicate all of Newsnight to security issues. Tell us about the mood in that area.
Well, it's a shame. It's a shame, and the story of Nabiha, does mirror the story of some of the other victims, like we saw yesterday. Yesterday, we were able to identify 3 of them, and that's exactly the reason why we went on today to identify. Now, 4 bodies were discovered, and it also tells us, something somewhat of, the people committing these atrocities. And that's because some of the victims were adopted from different places. Well, some from the Sagwari estate, well, some from far into the, Buhari community, Zuma, and then some of the others. And, it's quite distasteful to see exactly the kind of bloodletting. You kidnap, and then from a family, you pick one of the victim and sends the message. Just like the family said, they said the kidnappers told them, we're going to send you a message. And the next thing that they saw was the corpse of their daughter. So it's quite shameful. That's the exact situation. It's not something we want to talk about. Even the authorities are ashamed of us talking about it, but we have to talk about it, and that's because if we keep silent, well, it doesn't profit anybody. That's not to say, the authorities are not doing something. Well, today we saw movement, security movement, going into the bush, trying to see if they could do 1 or 2 things. But this is one of those things where the only thing that counts is success. It's unfortunate, but then the only thing that counts is success. Now, same thing happened on the 2nd of January when Nabiha and her family members were abducted. Well, the police also responded. Sadly, the brother-in-law who did call for rescue and then came in with the police was shot. And then also, I think 2 other policemen were also shot. Thank God they didn't die. He was the only, the brother-in-law was the only one who died. And so we've seen some efforts from the security operatives, but it is still not enough. And like the Buhari Area Council chairman said, there's a whole lot that needs to be done in terms of synergy, and that's because we're beginning to put the piece together and then beginning to notice that yes, Niger State, or perhaps those communities in the outskirts of Niger State that borders Abuja, those communities in Kaduna that borders Abuja, those communities in Nasarawa State that borders Abuja, they seem to be the target. And then you want to ask questions: how come it's these communities that borders Abuja? Shouldn't we be bothered about security in the FCT?
Well, you cover security, you cover defense. I'm finding it very hard to swallow. What's the conversation sometimes amongst the heads of these agencies? Because it looks as if now the picture you painted, they're moving from these communities closing in on the FCT. So have there been any conversation or pressure from any of the agencies?
Yes, well, let's look back, in the last week or perhaps in the last 48 hours, that stories of Nabiha and then the other victims who were killed, since, the story is broken. Let's look at the reaction. Well, from the first public relations officer, well, we actually heard him, in a statement being put out, said, well, they are they're doing something, and then they've worked on deployments. Did we see deployments? Well, we saw some deployments today, but is that enough? No, not at all. Well, also on the part of the military, now the Guards Brigade, the Guards Brigade actually, covers that area, and then we did see some presence today. We did actually see them going into the outskirts, and then they said that's exactly how the kind of movements that they've seen according to the community so far. But thus far, well, not much have been seen. And I think the fact that these bandits seem to have adopted these bloodletting methods of killing family members, even while ransoms are being negotiated, does indeed spoil the tea for everyone. And so it puts everybody on their toes. We hope that something can be done by the security agencies.
Is there police presence in all of this at all? I mean,
yes, there is. But the question is, is results. Everybody wants to see results, and then we want to see these girls come back safely. it's quite shameful also when you hear about the kind of the sums that have been talked about, 60 million, 100 million, and you ask yourself, does the average home in Nigeria, can the average home in Nigeria cough out 2 million, 5 million,
It's become
not
an
to talk
industry,
about 20
unfortunately.
million,
Yeah.
60 million. It's
Really sad.
indeed very
Really sad.
outrageous.
Ferdinand, we would like to thank you for your time, and we do hope you stay on this.